Australia is terrible at measuring poverty. In fact, the country can't even agree on what poverty is. What does it mean to be poor? Is it just about how much you get paid? What if you own your own home? What if you have access to almost everything you need, but you just don't have a lot of cash? In Australia, the standards we use to measure poverty can vary wildly from organisation to organisation, sometimes even between government departments, meaning everyone's working off different numbers. And if that's the case, how do we know if things are getting better or worse? One of the more common measures, the Henderson poverty line, is based on the minimum amount of disposable income needed to support a household of 2 adults and 2 kids in 1973. Yes, you heard that right, it's 50 years old. And while the dollar figure has been adjusted over time, it still doesn't take into account changes to the standard of living or how much your income actually buys you. It's also about access to nutritious food, decent healthcare, education, disability services, and voting rights. And what about the environment you live in? Your risk of experiencing family violence or the housing crisis? Those things could all get worse without there being a change in people's incomes. But putting all that other stuff into a poverty measure must be nearly impossible, right? Wrong. There are actually proven effective ways of measuring the complex nature of poverty and deprivation. It seems Australia just doesn't want to use them. For years now, the United Nations has been using something called a multidimensional poverty index. It factors in things like child mortality, school attendance, the availability of cooking fuel, electricity and more to work out who is poor and in what way. Those things are more relevant to poverty in developing nations, but the system itself is flexible and has been adapted for high-income countries too. Some parts of Europe focus on housing quality, health and disability, education, employment, political engagement, social connections, the environment and the prevalence of violence as the building blocks of their indexes. Even the United States has a pretty decent version of this. Back home, there are growing calls from social services, think tanks, activists and researchers for Australia to get it together and adopt a modern, consistent approach to poverty measurement. And most importantly, to develop this new system in consultation with the true experts on this complex topic, people actually experiencing poverty.